Hello, girls, guys, or otherwise. This is Rich with your Witchy Book Club series. We are going through lesson 10. I keep on wanting to say chapter. Lesson 10 of Modern Magic, 12 lessons on high magical arts. If you do not have your own copy, and by the way, it's by Donald Michael Craig. If you do not have your own copy, you can get your copy by clicking the link below. It will be an Amazon link. However, if you are able to get it at a local bookstore, local retailer of some sort, witchy shop, what have you, I do suggest going through those channels if that is available to you. First off, let me go ahead and give a shout out to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you, Linda and Sophia. If you would like to become a patron on Patreon to start up the Christo-Pagan church that we are starting here on YouTube, hit the link down below. If you would like to support me as an individual and keeping the lights on and the electronics working and whatnot, you can hit up the eBay link down below. That money does go towards me. If you do not have the finances to support this channel, that's fine. You can hit the subscribe link right over there, the little subscribe button, hit that bell notification, hit that thumbs up or thumbs down button. Doesn't matter to me. It all appeases the algorithmic gods of YouTube. All hail the algorithmic gods of YouTube. Hit up the comment section down below, and if it is safe for you to do so, share this on your social media platforms. So, I want to get into this lesson 10 on modern magic. Because I don't have that many notes to this lesson. The nature of it, this is a very sex magic chapter lesson, what have you. I do have some notes. I don't really deal in sex magic, and it's not something that I would want to go out of my way to. If I did do it, I wouldn't want to share it really here on YouTube. That would be more of a Patreon exclusive if I did do that. If I did sex magic as a regular part of my ritual work. Seeing that I don't, that is not something that I'm going to really share here. Or that I can't really share because I haven't done it before. Not saying I won't ever do it. Probably not to the extent of what's going on in this chapter here. Yeah, it's just not something that would appeal to me of that to that caliber. If I did want to share it because of YouTube restrictions and whatnot, I would not want to share it here on YouTube. So we go through the lesson though. We go through this because that's what we do here on our Witchy Book Club series. And we only have lesson 11 and 12 to go on. And did I? Yeah, and then we're not really going through the appendix. So we're getting up to the end of the book here, and I just wanted to put this out there that if you have not gotten your Temple of Shamanic Witchcraft by Christopher Penczak, that is the next book in our series here. So make sure that you get that material so you have that available for you. Anyway, we go through this lesson. I don't have much to say on this, like I was already saying. However, there are some points that I wanted to touch on and have a little bit of a discussion on. So, give me 1 second here. Okay, I wanted to turn off my alarms because I have alarms set and whatnot. I wanted to make sure those were turned off so I didn't have to sit here and edit out any alarms that were coming through. So, in our grandest of traditions, let's go ahead and look at the first sentence of this lesson and see how it opens everything up. Like I said, I'm not going to have a lot to touch on with this lesson, but I think there are certain discussions that we can have here. Starting on page 335, magic is not something you do, magic is something you are. Opening up the chapter, or the lesson, very nicely. I do like this. This is a common phrase that that people in the witchy pagan community use. I accept this. This is a classic phrase. Don't know exactly who came up with this phrase, but it's kind of been something that is in the zeitgeist of paganism and witchcraft and whatnot. So, moving on, also on 335. As a magician, I believe that every adult is entitled to have sex any way he or she desires, as long as it does not involve the coercion of anyone else. I want to add to this because consent is a big issue. This is something that needs to be talked about, especially, might I add, to younger individuals of the more masculine gender. So, people who identify as males, or, you know what, let's just say the penis having people. Okay. Because it doesn't really matter what gender you identify as. The overwhelming, forcible individuals, and I'm purposely dancing around certain verbiage because of the YouTube monetization and whatnot, and there needs to be discussion on this. The individuals who have that appendage are more likely to be the ones that do not get consent of the other individual. That's not saying that it is entirely those individuals. Sometimes it is consent that is not given by them, but there is a forcible situation that happens. I'm really uncomfortable trying to dance around this, but I think y'all know exactly what I'm talking about here. So I don't think that consent was as big of a talking point back whenever this was originally published, and might not have been something that that Donald Michael Craig had really thought of in this context. I am not saying that he would not have agreed with me on this. I think that it just wasn't something that was a big talking point. Certainly, I get the impression from reading this sentence that he would have been on board with what is being said here, that no coercion to anyone else. So, yeah, I wanted to put a point on that, is that consent is the thing that is, and or should be, and is needed, and needs to be talked about with younger, especially younger individuals, as they are coming into the physical time of their life, and reiterated to the adult individuals who have that penis appendage, because consent is an issue and we need to be talking about this a lot more. Anyway, I wanted to touch on that because that's something that rattled around in my brain thing. But move on to 336. He talks about brainwashing here, and I wanted to touch on this because brainwashing, it is very subtle. It is something that does happen, and that's why, especially in the, with the last year, 2 years, I've been more and more logically focusing on individual parts of my practice. And a lot of that has to do with, when I was younger, being brainwashed to hate my mother, for instance. Hate certain individuals. Brainwashing is a thing. It can be very subtle, and it does not matter the amount of intelligence you have, and we're going to touch on that here in a minute. But I did want to hit home to the point of brainwashing is a thing, and we need to be talking about this. The the concept that it is out there is one way that we arm ourselves. Another way that we arm ourselves to not become brainwashed is by thinking logically about things, thinking logically about, what are we saying this is. Whenever I was doing the Christo-Pagan Sundays, uh, we went through biblical texts and we brought logic to it. Treating it as a mythos, I think we get more out of it, rather than treating it as literal fact. So, stuff like that. And the fact that many of us, and I don't even want to say many of us, because that is an overarching phrase there, and that can be a little too hyperbole. Yeah, hyperbolic. There we go. I think that might be a little hyperbolic saying that many of us, but at any rate, I think that there are a lot of us out there who have been brainwashed, whether we want to realize it or not, in some way, shape, or form within our belief systems. And thinking logically on these belief systems is something that we need to introduce and sustain within our beliefs and practices and whatnot. Doesn't mean that, just because you can't scientifically prove something doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that you are not able to scientifically prove it. It doesn't mean that your faith is any less valid. It just means that, your faith is not necessarily scientific fact. But we do need to bring logic in when thinking about certain individual aspects. Let's move on, because I think I'm getting wrapped around the axle on this a little too much. I just wanted to touch on the brainwashing part because it is a big issue with me. Moving on to 337. He says, control of a person's sex life is part of what has been called brainwashing. It's part of it, but it's not I wouldn't say it's a huge part of it. I think it's certainly a part of brainwashing techniques and whatnot, but I think that there are easier and more focused ways of brainwashing than just through sex life, telling people who they can and cannot have intercourse with. It certainly is an issue whenever we're talking about brainwashing and whatnot, but I don't think it is the main issue or the major issue. And I'm going to get into that here in a minute because, we're going to be talking about this just for a minute here, or just in a minute here. But the next part that I have is on 337 as well. It's at the very bottom of the page. If you are working with a group of people and it seems obvious that to you that sex is going to become a part of the group's activities, stop. Yeah, if you're not comfortable with being part of a group sex situation, then, stop. Back out. Say, no, I don't want to be a part of this. Yeah. A magical group should not be solely on sex initiation and whatnot. And I think this is one colloquialism that we need to get rid of, or not colloquialism, that's the wrong term, but one stigma, one piece of stigma that we need to get rid of within the pagan community as a whole is that we are all sexual beings that just have huge orgies, because that's not exactly true. For, I would venture to say, and this is being hyperbolic, many of us, probably not the issue. I would venture to guess that there are more solitary practitioners out there than coven members, coven practitioners. And even in the coven practicing groups, they are more likely to not be sex oriented. So yeah, I would say that if somebody says to you, this is how you become part of the group, stop. Because they're just trying to take advantage of you, and it is one way that individuals prey on people who are seeking a legitimate pagan path, or pagan practice of sorts, or witchcraft based practice, is that they say, well, you have to have sex with us all in order to be initiated. No, you do not. Run away. On 338, he says, and please do not think that you are immune to brainwashing or too smart for it. This is what I was discussing earlier. Definitely, we are all susceptible to it. I actually watch an individual. His name is Telltale Atheist, here on YouTube. You can find him on Telltale, and I'm gonna try to leave a link down below if I remember, or Telltale Fireside Chat, Telltale, and then Fireside Chat. He has, I think, 3 channels now, and he does a podcast and all that stuff. And he talks about cults and breaking down cult behavior and whatnot. Lately, there's been a lot more political views shared on there, because of the MAGA movement being so cult-like, and he often talks about I can't remember the individual's name, Hassan, I can't remember, came up with the BITE model. Stands for behavior control. It's BITE. Behavior. Oh, geez. Information control. There's 2 more, and one's environmental control. But basically, he covers different ways that the model covers different ways that that people become brainwashed, or how people end up setting up a cult. And yeah, it's pretty scary, some of the things out there, how much they actually go hand in hand with cult behavior. The Jonestown cult and the Manson cult, how many similarities there were in there and whatnot. It's very interesting. It's kind of scary to look at those individual things and think, oh, these are the 4 or 5 things that somebody has to do in order to wrangle people in and control individuals in a cult-like fashion. And I'll say this, whenever setting up the Christo-Pagan church, still setting it up, that's one thing that I kept in mind. I'm like, you know what? I don't want this to be even perceived as being a cult, or being a barrier of behavior modification or information control or environmental control. I don't want people to get that idea that this is a cult like thing, because then you're dealing with brainwashing, and cults ruin people's lives and whatnot. And yeah, so whenever setting up the Christo-Pagan church, like I said, it's still getting set up and whatnot, this is something that is in the back of my mind. Make sure I don't do this, make sure I don't do that, let's not slip into any of this type of stuff. We do not say you have to do this, you cannot do that. We're not putting up those guardrails for individuals to make it seem like, or to even make it at all be that they are being controlled. And that's something that I have very much, even in in just the planning phase, wanted to make sure that this is not a part of the church that we are setting up. My main goal is just to help people become better than who they are the day before and keep on going on, and really give individuals that community sense that I know that I miss. I miss going to church and whatnot and having that community sense. And I know other people do too. And going to church is not something that it really strikes them because, they're in a very judgmental area or what have you. So it's a mixture of those things that I wanted to set up this Christo-Pagan church. Anyway, yeah, I will stick those links down below for Telltale. And yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to that. You don't have to be dumb in order to be brainwashed by cult-like behavior or by a cult. The individual who does do those videos, he is actually a former Jehovah's Witness and speaks out mainly on the Jehovah's Witnesses, and like I said, more recently on the MAGA movement and political stuff and whatnot, because those are important issues of today. Another one to check out is Jimmy Snow, or Mr. Atheist, or Dear Mr. Atheist. I will also put a link down below on his channel, because as a queer ally and a queer individual, he is a very logically based person. Another person who happens to be atheist and actually has a good channel on trying to deconstruct religion. And if you believe in religion, that's fine, that type of thing, which is what I find appealing is with him and Telltale, that they're fine with individuals having a religion. They just don't want they don't want people to be missing the scientific aspect of it, and I appreciate that. Like I said, doesn't mean that your faith or your practice is invalid, just means that it hasn't been proven by science and more study is warranted. Yeah, there's no problem with that. And for me, they kind of they butt heads, and I'm okay with that, and I sit in that uncomfortableness, and it's okay. It's okay. But those two individuals working to deconstruct the aspects of cults and cult-like behavior is an important thing that I wanted to touch on whenever looking at this brainwashing portion. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on, because I spent a lot of time talking about cults there. Let's look at page 343. He says, although both the Kabbalah and Tantras disagree with him on this point, those who like Crowley may agree with him that you should choose anyone to do the right with, and they need not know the purpose of the right. I kind of disagree with Crowley, and I kind of disagree with the book here. I'm in like the middle, where my partner is not necessarily going to be practicing a rite of this nature with me, which is one thing that I have, one reason that I have not done sex magic to an extent. So yeah, if my partner said, hey, I'm fine if you're doing magic while we're doing our thing, that's one thing. I probably would not say to him every single time that, hey, this is part of this rite and blah, 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 blah. So if you have a partner that is understanding of what you may do while having sexual relations, of with one another. If you have a partner that is understanding that this may be something that you would like to do and they are fine with it, then all the better. If they are not fine with it, then you need to have further conversations, being open and honest in your relationship and in your relations, being open and honest with your partner about what is going on. Uh, and certainly if my partner asked me, like, hey, were you doing a spell while you were doing this? And I said yes, then he'd be like, okay. I mean, my partner's pretty darn open about stuff like that. So, yeah, I don't think it would be an issue, but your mileage may vary, you know. Talk with your partner, have this discussion if this is something that you think they might be against or that you think they might have an issue with. Moving on to page 360, he talks about LGBTQ issues. And I appreciate that he put this in here because much of what you see in, you know, when talking about sex magic, you see, you know, the male female traditional view, and that for some of us is not the case. Sometimes you have two men, sometimes you have two women, sometimes you have a lot of individuals that have no gender at all, and that is all fine. We need to have more representation in books like this that are talking about, you know, whenever you're talking about individuals with relation to one another. And I'm kind of dancing around that because not necessarily with sex magic. Whenever you're talking about the masculine and feminine type of energies, we need to have a larger discussion on what do we exactly mean by masculine and feminine energies. You know, the traditional was that masculine strong, feminine receptive, you know, projective receptive, that type of thing. Which, you know, what if you have a two female relationship, a lesbian relationship? There needs to be a discussion there of what does this mean to you now? You know, there's something that's not really conventionally there, and I don't mean that in a, that sounded horrible the way I said that, and I'm gonna leave that in there because this is all stuff that's like just spewing out of my brain thing. In the traditional sense, that's not something that you would really have. So we need to draw attention to that and really talk about what we mean whenever we say certain things. So I think he did well by touching on this, but I don't think that he touched on it quite enough. This is a little tiny blurb here. I do want to also say that Christopher Penzak has a book out there that is for, I think it's called Gay Magic. Hold on. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up here. Give me 1 second. But yes, Christopher Penzak does have a book out. Let me just open this real quick. Okay, and we're looking for, well, I'm not seeing it. Okay. I want to just do this. Give me 1 second. I'm not even cutting any of this out because I want to tell you what Christopher Penzak's, if I can find where his section is here. Maybe if I click on the right thing. I actually have all of my books categorized. So I want to make sure that I just get that one. Come on. Oh my gosh. Click around the right way. Penzak. Okay. It is Gay Witchcraft is what it's called. Okay, there we go. Long journey for that one. But Gay Witchcraft, I do recommend that book. There's also one by, and I cannot remember the author. It is, oh, son of a gun. Something Green Man. Hold on. The Path of the Green Man by Michael Ford. Yes, that one I actually did a review of, and if I can find it, I will show the book. Ford, Path of the Green Man, right there. Yeah, this one, especially for male individuals or you know, gay individuals who identify as male. Very good book. I do recommend that. There is also one, Sons of the Goddess by Christopher Penzak, that I may do as an individual uh, witchy book club series just for individuals who identify as male or would like to be part of a book series that deals with male issues on Wicca and witchcraft and whatnot, as taught by Christopher Penzak. That one I may do as an additional video or as an additional book series, but I don't think I would want to do that as this is the Witchy Book Club book that we're doing for however many weeks, because not everyone would relate to it. So picking something like this book or other Christopher Penzak books are something that many more of us can relate to and have a discussion on and whatnot. So I think it serves a greater purpose going through those books rather than one book that is geared towards one type of individual or one gender or one sex, what have you. Y'all know what I mean by this. And we're going to have these conversations of sex and gender and how they are not the same, and how, how we identify. We're going to have more of these discussions in the future, because this is an ongoing conversation that we need to have. Anyway, the last thing that I wanted to touch on was on 368. Much of this chapter is the ritual aspect of it, which, I'm not going to really comment on ritual aspects because each individual, is going to be different in how they do a ritual or what speaks to them as part of a ritual. But one thing that really did hit home with me, or not really hit home with me, but one thing that I really wanted to point out was on 368, and that I wanted to hit home with this entire lesson is, the responsibility and the need to be safe and take safe measures. And, if you're going to have or be part of sex magic or group, orgies or whatever, you do you. And not that I would really oppose that, even for myself, but probably not in the magical sense. Just saying, just putting that out there. But whenever you're doing stuff like that, do be safe. Do take precautions and do educate yourself on things that you need to do to keep yourself safe from any of the STIs, STDs that are out there. We want everybody to continue living a full, healthy life. And, this is one thing that, you taking the wrong steps and not paying attention to to certain things, or not taking care of certain issues, yeah, can really be detrimental to your health and whatnot. So these are things that I wanted to discuss and put forth in the forefront of this lesson to make sure that I reiterate a point that he made in here of being safe. Um, yeah, always play safe. And that's all that I have. That's all the notes that I had for chapter or for lesson 10. Um, Next week, or not next week, 2 weeks from now, join me on the 3rd of nope, 4th of June, um, for, right? Yeah, 4th of June for lesson 11 of Modern Magic by Donald Michael Craig. Yeah, lesson 11. We're getting right along there. We're going to have the 4th of June, and then the 18th of June is lesson 12, and then we are all the way done with this book. Again, if you are just now joining us and you wanted to go back and review uh, the other chapters and whatnot, you can hit up the playlist. All of the videos are on playlists and whatnot, especially the Witchy Book Club series. So you can go back and look at those and follow chapter by chapter. If you do not have your copy, link down in the description box down below. Check out the Jimmy Snow, Dear Mr. Atheist channel. Check out the Telltale channel and the Telltale Fireside Chat channel and whatnot. Um, go and review those. Part of why I love, and one of the reasons I wanted to mention those two channels, is because they deal with brainwashing and cult-like behavior and cult-like tendencies and whatnot. And they are very informed on current events and whatnot. So if you just want to catch up with current events and see what other people are saying about certain topics, those are in there as well. So yeah, that's all that I have for this week. Join me on Tuesday for our Tarot Talk Tuesday. And until next time, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.